Back home again in Indiana.
The talking, nagging, lucha watching, puro viewing, indie supporting, drinking, cursing, son of a gun of a podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty and co-host Ike Isaacs as they talk wrestling and interview those within the business, bringing positivity back to pro wrestling. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
And welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. This is your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us yet again on the podcast that is supporting Midwest wrestling history, past, present, and future. And we are also trying to put a little positivity back into pro wrestling. Thank you for being here. We hope you had a great week. I did. I'm starting to feel better after the neck surgery. Things are starting to get semi back to normal. All's well, all's on track. Once again, thank you for everybody that's reached out to me and sent your well wishes. It's much appreciated. Take time while you're out there online. Visit DaveDynasty.com for all of our social media links, all of our past episode links, banners and buttons to our sponsors, our Amazon.com affiliate, our HighSpots.com affiliate, all kinds of good stuff there. Go check it out. Make sure you watch us on YouTube. We are always putting things up, including this week we put up a YouTube exclusive interview with superfan Roddy Hogan. Look him up. You know who he is. You've seen him on the shows, on the pay-per-views. We got an exclusive interview with him on our YouTube channel. We're uploading more episodes of old classic WWA, World Wrestling Association television. Good stuff. So go check those out and enjoy. This week we got a great episode. We have the manager for Ohio is for Killers, JT Davidson. Great to have him on, making his mark, doing his thing, and bringing back prominence to the managerial role, which is kind of overlooked anymore, right? It used to be a big thing. There used to be managers. That's how I got my start. My in-ring start, or my whatever you want to call it. I was a manager. And you know, you just don't see him much anymore, but JT's out there rocking it, doing it. He's one of the best, if not the best, in the country right now. And a great interview with him today. Good to talk to him. We also have a new episode, as always, of Warner's Wisdom with Mance Warner. Always fun, always entertaining. I highly suggest when you get ready to listen to that to crack open a cold one with old Mancer and have a listen. Put you in the mood, right? Set the tone right. So, we're going to take a break right now. Hear from our show sponsor, 123 Pins. Visit them at 123pins.us. Lots of cool stuff. And when we come back, we will have that interview with JT Davidson. On the way out, though, hey, Dick the Bruiser. Take us to it, Dick.
We'll be right back.
Hey, thank you for supporting our sponsors here on the Dave Dynasty Show, including 123 Pins. Visit them at 123pins.us for a great selection of pins, enamel stickers, mugs, hats, shirts, you name it, they have it for the wrestling and pop culture fan. And if you go and place an order and enter the promo code DAVE, D-A-V-E, you receive 25% off your order. So go visit our sponsor, 123 Pins, at 123pins.us.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your co-host, Ike Isaacs, and today I am joined with a very special guest, someone who gets to see a little bit of all sides of wrestling, someone who is a little obscure for the show, someone who you might not expect. We have with us today JT Davidson. How are we doing today?
I'm very good. And yourself, sir?
Doing fantastic. Excited to get an interview with you because, like I said, it's a little out of the obscurity here because typically we do a lot of guys from the Midwest and Midwest legends and stuff. So I'm really excited to get someone else in here and look at them and see what's going on. Pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So first things first, where are you from?
Well, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Pretty much, my home base is Rockstar Pro Wrestling right here in downtown Dayton. Been in the area most of my life. The Midwest is definitely, for me, it's home. It's the hotbed for wrestling right now. I really think Ohio is producing a lot of quality people right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. So then, of course, what was your? So this is obviously kind of an obscure question as well, but what was your childhood like? Did you play any sports growing up?
Well, see, I grew up in a really small town. I think I had 62 people in my graduating class. So like my high school, we didn't have a football team, wrestling team, anything like that. We did have basketball, track and field, stuff like that. So I did track and field, but I really didn't care a lot about sports. I was just always into wrestling. That was me and my friends. I come from the era of like the late night best of backyard wrestling. Commercials, that you used to see. Of course, that's what me and my friends were all about. We were kind of the weird guys that were always, wrestling in their backyards while everybody else was going to, going to soccer practice or whatever. So that's what we were doing.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, there's nothing better than a little bit of backyard wrestling, right?
Yeah, well, I have a different view on it now, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. You grow up a little bit, and you're like, that was not a smart thing.
Yeah, that was dumb. That took years off my real career. Like that.
That's right. So I know you said, obviously, with the whole backyard wrestling, so there was something there about wrestling that kind of intrigued you. So what are your first memories as a wrestling fan?
Well, when I was real young, I didn't really watch wrestling, but I liked the bodybuilder type, guys. Like I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger, I loved Sylvester Stallone, and I loved Hulk Hogan, but I knew him only from like Thunder in Paradise. I didn't really watch wrestling. I just knew him from TV. So what ended up happening is just one night, I think I was 12 or 13 years old, I was just flipping through the channels one night, and there was Monday Night Nitro, and I saw Hulk Hogan, and I didn't know anything about the storyline. He was already NWO, and he was a bad guy, and everybody hated him. But I liked him, and he was having a title match versus Randy Savage, and he won the belt from Savage that night on Nitro. And I came running out of my room going, "Mom, Hulk Hogan won the world championship." And she's going, "You watch wrestling?" Like that, And I'm like, "I guess I do. Like I do now." So I came in during the Monday Night Wars, and it just hooked me right away. To the point where I had a TV stacked on top of another TV with a cable splitter, so I could watch Raw and Nitro at the same time. That was how I was during those days.
Absolutely. So that was probably one of the best ages in wrestling. Cause I think that was kind of one of the first revolutions, I think, with what wrestling is nowadays. I think that was the building blocks, was that time period right there.
Well, it had to have been. I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, there was so much competition that was the time frame where everybody had to keep pushing the envelope. So you started to see, one-upsmanship on the two major ones, but then, of course, ECW was there, just blowing everybody away when it came to just, craziness, So,
Exactly.
And ECW was just a whole other animal. But I really believe that's when, a lot of your Japanese stuff took off as far as, that's when death matches started to really take off, different things along those lines. It really spawned a whole new, side of wrestling, which I think is what you see today with like the super indie style and, just the fast move, style that you see on the indies now.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I think, especially for that time period, if you look at the available things you could watch, definitely ECW is one of those that were like, so they're like stapling dollar bills to each other and throwing each other into barbed wire. Like, what's going on right now?
Right, yeah.
But
100%. I mean, and you saw a lot of that in Japan too, like Cactus Jack and Terry Funk, different things like that. So it was very different for an American audience.
yeah, I remember, this is kind of just a little side note, but I remember watching a match between Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. It was like a springboard death trap match where it was like barbed wire springboards with that were loaded with like gunpowder or something that would explode when they were like power slammed onto it, and like, oh my god.
Yeah. The C4 death match.
Nope, there you okay.
Yep.
I just remember watching that. I don't remember how I was watching it, but I remember that when I was a kid, like at some point in time, seeing that, and that just blew my mind.
Well, and there were a lot of clips on Beyond the Mat, of them doing those type of matches too. So I think when Beyond the Mat came out and really raised that curtain on the backstage area of wrestling, I think that's when a lot of us, at least in my age group, started to dig in, like, oh, I've never seen that before. What's that?
Exactly.
So it was just a different way to look at it.
Certainly. So definitely, it definitely sounds like you had quite a little bit of an upbringing there towards the end of that wrestling for your childhood and such, which definitely is a little bit different from a lot of people. Because certainly, some people say, "Yeah, I was wanting to wrestle since I was born," and so it's obviously it's a good refresher to see someone who is like, I found out how amazing wrestling was and then wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it was during that time frame when I fell in love with it, and I. Look, I'm not the most athletic person in the world. I'm really not. I mean, I lift weights, so I look athletic. But I can't dance, can't do anything that require rhythm. But I looked, and I was not like I said, I was not in sports, but I looked at this and said, this is something I could do. This is something that I had a passion for it, and I knew of a couple of local places now in Ohio. Cincinnati, back when I was a teenager, was kind of a hotbed for pro wrestling, for indie wrestling. You've had NWF, which is still around. That's Roger Ruffin runs that down there in Cincinnati right now. HWA, which Heartland Wrestling was actually a developmental territory for WWE back when I was a teenager. So that was a big deal. So you had those two big ones and then some smaller ones around the area. But, what really hooked me, and I think you'll hear a lot of people, they say the first time they really went to an indie show and they got close up to that ring, that's when they saw it live. That's when they were like, I could do this. This is something that I can do. And, HWA, I remember watching guys like Nigel McGuinness and Matt Stryker, not Matt Stryker that you saw in WWE, different Matt Stryker, but Dean Jablonski, Chad Jablonski, all these guys who were, big in the area. And, again, just thinking to myself, I could do this. And also one of the guys that stood out to me the most is a gentleman by the name of Brock Guffman, who, if you don't know who he was, he's as far as I'm concerned, a legendary Ohio manager. And he's somebody that he's actually the first person that I ever approached at a show and said, hey, how do I get into this? How do I do this? And he was just super nice to me, gave me some names. And, funnily enough, he ended up being a guest referee for me years and years later when I had a manager versus manager match. So he, that kind of came full circle, but whole other story.
Certainly. So then, like you said, definitely that passion that kind of you gained during that time period that moved you forward ultimately culminated in you wanting to wrestle and do that. So who specifically trained you, and when was that when you got trained?
Well, I give Dave Chris the credit on actually training me the right way. I had gone through a wrestling school probably in 05, and I thought I knew how to wrestle, and I ended up wrestling on a show that Dave and Jay Chris were on, and they were kind of gave me a hard time, but I remember I tried to be as respectful as possible, and then I was on another show with Dave a month or two later, and he just and I did some dumb stuff on that show. I did some kind of hardcore match, and Dave was just like, he comes over and sits by me, and he was just like, well, that was dumb. And he goes, but you got heart, you're super respectful. He's like, why don't you come up and train with so probably that 05, 06 time frame is when I started training with Dave up in Dayton, and in one way, I've basically been with Chris and Sammy Callahan ever since. So we're going on about 12 years now.
Yeah, definitely. It does, from like everything that I've seen, does seem like a very, very lengthy career that you guys have had together, which is certainly a good thing. But definitely, like you said, you were a wrestler first, and you had that period where you wrestled, and obviously you transitioned into being a manager.
Yeah.
But before we get to the manager aspect, though, what was your first match like as a wrestler?
My first ever match, it was like a 3 match, and it was with a guy who isn't really working anymore. But it was, I thought it was great. now and think it was horrible, obviously, but 3 or 4 minutes long. I mean, I remember we taped it, obviously, like everybody does, on a VHS back then. And I remember he flipped over his knee, and I remember my sister watching that specific move on tape, going, "You're actually okay. You're actually good." Just the kitchen sink. Just to impress my sister. I don't know why. I remember it's not noteworthy. It's not something that I think about a lot. What I think about is being my first match. My friend Joe, who actually broke into the business with me, we had his dad passed away, and the company that we were with, again, I didn't get a good wrestling education with. I had to put on a benefit show for his family, and he and I ended up wrestling on that show. And I just remember the crowd reaction was just so good. And I don't feel like it was a pity thing because, again, this is, the guy's dad had passed away. Like, I think they genuinely enjoyed it. And it was fun, and it just, kind of spurred me on as far as, okay, we can do this. This is, this is something that I want to continue doing. And, I felt at the time that I was pretty good at it. But little did I know once I got into the real world of pro wrestling that, I didn't know jack about anything. So
certainly. So, but obviously, like I think everyone can tell you, definitely when it comes with like the business, I mean, you do learn along the way.
Oh, 100%. And that, again, I think the time where I learned the most was when I started going on the road. I ended up being on the road with guys like Dave and J. Chris, Sandy Callahan, Dustin Reyes, among other people, and just, having things pointed out to me and, running into Al Snow along the way, running into, other, big names who, took time to teach and, and show guys the right way to do it, but I learned more on the road than I ever really, doing drills, taking bumps, things like that.
Absolutely. So then also, like we said, you had your career as a wrestler, but then you also transitioned into being a manager. So why did you do that? Why was that a change that you made?
Well, number one, you never heard of me when I was a wrestler, so I think that would tell you something about my wrestling career. The easy answer is I'm a better manager than I am a wrestler. But I had left the wrestling business for a couple of years. I had a neck injury, which really scared the crap out of me. I still have numbness in my hands and my feet, from that injury. And, at the same time I was getting, I had a fiance, I was getting married. So it just, I went and absorbed myself into real, if that makes sense. Became a family man. I actually became very successful outside of wrestling. I became a regional director for a large nutrition. The business side of things is actually real. Like I am a, pretty accomplished business. I hate the term businessman, but there you go. Outside wrestling and now inside of wrestling. But regardless, I left for a while. When I got first and, I came back and decided that, this is something that made me happy. Before I wanted to be involved with it again. And I went down to NWF in Cincinnati and, started rolling around with the trainees. But Dustin Reyes gave me a call one day and basically was just like, hey, man, I hear you're back in. Why don't you just, come with me. I'll get you some bookings. We'll shake off some ring rust. And eventually we ended up at Rockstar Pro Wrestling and Jake, who had just started booking the show, he's talking to Dustin, and he says, I can't remember, can JT talk? And Dustin's like, yeah, JT can talk. And such says, well, listen, we because again, I had a bunch of ring rust on me. I didn't feel like keep up with the caliber of wrestler that they had at the time, or today even. But I felt like I needed that time to roll around in that training school, myself back to a certain level where to keep up. But so once you get the type character like Kevin Nash was, you come and be Diesel for Alex Colon, we're going to turn him heel, eventually transition you into a wrestling role. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like a good idea. Well, we got so Alex. I remember talking to Dustin Reyes, and I said, I think I want to be a manager. Like, I think this is good for me. And immediately he goes, "You're an idiot." Like, because nobody says that. Nobody goes over their, early 30s, goes and says, "You know what? I'm in great shape. I'm going to be a manager wrestler. I'm going to take a smaller role on the show." But I said, "No, this is perfect though, if you think about it." Because at the time I literally, between us and I, we were the number one heels on the show. And, it got to the point where when I would try to get on the microphone, the crowd and I would play a game, which was basically they would tweet out as humanly possible to keep me from talking, to drown out, me talking on the microphone. That level of noise, the decibel levels, was higher than anything else on the show. So it just made sense. There's 20-something wrestlers in this locker room, 0 managers other than myself. There's one. I said, that's my spot. I was like, and nobody's going to try to take it away from me, And the longer I've been doing it, it's just, it just feels like something like a hand in a glove. But I really enjoy it actually more. I get the same high if I have a good promo, or we have a great spot that I'm involved in, or my guy has a good match, and I helped elevate him. I get the same high, that I did when I wrestled. So it's definitely worth it to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. So definitely, it sounds like that. It was a change, but it wasn't like a negative change. It wasn't like, oh, I'm washed up, I want to become a manager. It's, I am going to be a better manager than any other manager.
Yeah. Well, when I started doing it, that was kind of the goal, and honestly, doing it different. That's the thing. I honestly believe that my approach to managing is number one. Most of the needs to be, but don't, historically, you don't see a manager, who's going to bull up or, lock eyes wrestler and maybe they'll have a standoff. The manager's always in the back way. Well, I will play that role. I'm the iron manager. That's the thing. I'm, my character is a little bit more. No, JT might not wrestle all the time, but he might fistfight you. That's kind of what I want people to believe, and that's why look at the good grief, the spring WrestleMania weekend. I think I gave at least 8 different people a spine buster that weekend. Or I picked King Strickland up on my shoulders, in the finals of Best of the Best, so Dave could give him a cutter off my shoulders. Or different things like that. But I'm a much more physical manager, and like at AAW, that's things that really got me established there. Sammy was like, "We're just totally backwards." He's like, normally you bring a manager in, they get all the heat, and then you bump them, and that's the payoff. Bump you every single month for at least the first 6 months. Like, we're gonna the lowest bumps you can possibly. We're just gonna murder you. And of course, me being the idiot I am, it sounds like an amazing idea, but it got me over. That's the thing. So, when I brought out my Iron Manager, Game of Thrones T-shirt, and I brought them to Chicago, I sold out, and I sold out of all the 8x10s. So, that difference, really bending too high, they're making people look at you. People want to look at a car wreck, and that was the first, 6 months. Of AAW, and to this day, Chicago, I really believe that other than Dayton, kind of where I'm the most popular, and fortunately I failed me, so that type of stuff, is what I think did it for me, especially in Chicago.
Certainly. So, Bart, you've been just talking a little bit here about some of the things that you've accomplished and some of the things you've been working on, and really, if you looking at your career overall, just from what you've told me, certainly looks like that you're just on the up and up at this point. So, that's just from what I can see. And it looks go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I'd like to think so. I never that, there are, for my group, if you look at the F4K, obviously Sandy Callahan is Sandy Callahan, so, I don't think there's much that needs to be said about him. But with Dave Jake, they've been wrestling for 15 years, and I really believe they're the best now that they've ever been, in the ring. And you're starting to see that. They debut at PWG out in Los Angeles. They're starting to, pop up just with honor again. Rumors about TNA come up, different things like that. So there's a lot of, great things happening with them. all of our kids, Zachary Wentz, Desmond Xavier, Trey Miguel, Myron Reed, all these guys, who come through, I think have been made better by, their association with 4K and, different things like that. So the group is on the up and up. The group is on the rise right now. I think in my own modest way, I've helped to, help to move things along. But yeah, for me personally, I am being turned down currently by some of the large companies in the world. That sounds horrible, but but they know who I am. So.
Absolutely, that's true. So, not only is it just about your career, but it also the successes and the failures. They also are mimicking the success and the failures of the independent wrestling.
Yeah.
Independent wrestling is just absolutely amazing right now.
Yeah.
It is on fire. Literally, it's a ball of fire that I don't think is ever going to go out. However, there are good things and there are bad things about all things. So in your opinion, what's the best and worst parts about being a part of independent wrestling?
Well, for me, there's fans, fans. They're the most, fans that you're going to find. They can also be the most critical, So something that I said to a live recently, and it's just I got up there and I just really say thank you to the crowd, and kept talking about it in Dayton for Rockstar Pro. But I said, you guys, when we do it right, you let us know. So when we don't do it right, you let us know that too. I said, and that's okay. And that's okay. That's A-okay. I love honest crowds. Like, honestly, that's favorite things. Because an honest crowd, an East Coast crowd, Dayton, whatever, but they'll tell you when you screw up. You get the U.S. up chance, But at the same, they'll give you a standing ovation. You have a great match. You do something that they tell you that it's like on the East Coast right now. That's something that I'd never been to before, out in New Jersey. Never been there. And I was entertaining, and immediately there was a large he chant that started. He said they actually wasn't done out there. And that's, it kind of lost to me because, again, come from they say JT and then they're stomping their feet, and that's it's pretty cool. But the worst parts of independent wrestling right now, and I'll tell you, wrestling had ebbs and flows. This is just, to me, a natural progression of there being no major competition for WWE. That's what I believe this is.
Yeah.
When you had WCW and you had ECW, there was easy competition. People could just sit out. They're getting 5s and 6s and 9s in the ratings with people just at home. Now you have people that are, in their 30s, and they lived through that, and now wrestling is boring to be. It's not fun to watch. So you're seeking out your youth, you're seeking out that, alternative, and that's where indie wrestling is, catching on fire. Will it last forever? Probably not. But nothing does.
Exactly.
But as of fun, and it's something that me personally that I'm so excited and so grateful to be a part of. And, as a manager, so again, at the start of the show, I feel I'm able to be a part of it in a very large and impactful way. And again, and that's, it's not how I thought my dreams would, come true, but it's a dream come true when you talk about just being a part of it and being recognized as one of the, let's say, elite in that way. So it's a cool
Absolutely.
thing.
So certainly, like you said, with all good things, there's always an end.
Sure.
Unfortunately, right now, we don't see the end in sight.
No, not at all.
But one of also the bad things, though, about independent wrestling being the way it is right now is that with the popularity of independent wrestling, there's like a huge spotlight that's just being thrown on independent wrestling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely opens up independent wrestling and wrestling as a whole to a lot of criticisms, a lot of division of opinions on approaches and styles of wrestling. And recently there was actually a Twitter exchange that I think any wrestling fan knows, which is Rip Rogers and Randy Orton. And it seems to highlight the divide for those who stand for the modern style, you know, the very energetic, the very athletic style, to the more traditional side, which is just as fine as well. So, what's your take, and how do you view and approach wrestling and your matches? Well, in this situation, matches that you manage.
Well, look, I think a lot of times when you see nobody's necessarily wrong in an argument like that. Maybe they're both right for the wrong reasons, or maybe they're both wrong for the right reasons. Who knows, right? Randy has a point, and Randy's point is very simple. He says, "Well, I think it's, you know, he said something along the lines of, well, I've cleared $5 million on this trip to, you know, wherever he's at, and I didn't have to do any dives. You guys, you know, keep." And he was very condescending toward independent wrestlers. And here's the thing about Randy Orton, and I guess this is the part that irritated me with it. Randy never had to be an independent wrestler. He never had to come through. I mean, okay, he spent some time at OVW, but that was training, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to go up and down the roads. He didn't have to do, you know, like I did, a 14-hour drive one way, you know, by myself to make a show. He didn't have to do all that. He had, you know, either second or third generation wrestler. I think it's third. You know, and I'm not, and good on him, good for him. But he can make that kind of money because he has a multi-million-dollar corporation that's backing him, that's pushing him in a direction. If you are an independent wrestler, you are your own machine. You have to go out there and you have to, you know, do something to differentiate yourself. So these guys doing these crazy moves, maybe deathmatch wrestlers, or maybe, you know, pick a style and just put it into this conversation. Or, you know, it could be for me. It could be, you know, me doing dives that I do, or it could be me, you know, taking a bump on concrete or getting flipped into a guardrail, whatever it is. You have to do something to make people look and to make people pay attention, because there's so much wrestling going on. There's so many independents. There's so many wrestlers. What are you going to do that gets attention on you? You have to do something. You have to. So for Randy to say, you know, it's stupid, it doesn't work, or however he phrased it, I think wrong. I think it's wrong in our reality. In his reality, perfectly valid statement. But different levels of reality are actually very real when you start to look at what you have to deal with in our independent wrestling. Is we don't have the WWE backing us. We've got to make people win their money, and up in the ante is the way we have to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then, I guess you've already kind of answered this question. So then, do you see one side as inherently wrong or inherently right, or is there definitely a gray area?
Well, and look, in an ideal world, you know, look, how far can you push them? And we've been asking that for 20 years now. You know, the old timers in the, let's say, the 50s thought the people in the 70s were killing the business, and then the people from the 70s thought people in the 90s were in the business, and so forth. You know, I've heard plenty of people saying that indie wrestling right now is killing the business. Well, I think it's killing the business, first off. I think it's has a life of its own, and I think that it continues to evolve the appetites of the fans. The fans are what drives this, okay? But is it right or is it wrong? I have theories about psychology. I believe that, you know, it really, again, you tell a story, right? And I just put up, you know, quotations. And you tell a story. It doesn't have to do as many things. And I'll tell you what, I had a match with Zachary Wentz in December. I did a hardcore style street fight match. And I had somebody say to me, they were like, that was the most psychology I've ever seen used in a hardcore match. They said, I've always been told that you don't have to use psychology. I said, here's the thing. I actually take that much. Well, I took a lot of abuse, but it wasn't as much as you see a lot of these guys do. You know, Zach barely took any. But when you got to the end of the match, because we kept the story going and you felt this emotion between us, and you know, I'm going to put this match over. I thought it was great. You know, but we didn't have to do as many things as we might have, you know, to get a match of the year candidate, you know, out of it. You know, psychology is very important, and being able to tell the story is very important. And unfortunately, you get a lot of guys who never get taught that side, and it's just move, go home.
Yeah.
And they never have like an emotional investment with the crowd. I can tell you that in Dayton, that crowd, I really believe that crowd, genuinely loves me because A, they know that I will put my body on the line for them, but B, they know that I appreciate them, but they get emotionally invested, in the storylines that, we're in. So I think we're able to do that at a high level. And I think that's the difference between somebody who can be popular, but then somebody that can be beloved and someone that can really draw money. I think if that makes sense.
Actually, definitely. So then definitely, what's the word I'm looking for here? I definitely think that, like you said, that with all things wrestling psychology is a huge deal. I think definitely when when the people are in the ring and they're doing their thing, it's a ballet of violence. I think Jesse Ventura said that. It's a ballet of violence. And, and that's one of the things is that, like, it is, people always say, it's choreographed, or it's, and I hate when people say this, of course, but they say it's fake. And people don't understand that, like, it might not be us actually beating the living hell out of each other, and we might be pulling a little bit, but I think one of the things people don't like to think about is that with wrestling, there's a real connection with using your mind and your body together, and like you were talking about, the psychology of it is what really makes wrestling, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, the psychology of it, and I guess another word I'll use is, and something I do think is an issue in wrestling now, is the lack of selling. Yeah. So when you see these huge moves and the guy just pops up, look, it can happen every now and then. Like you'll see, somebody take let's say like a reverse Rana, then they pop up to their feet and they fire up and then boom, they get knocked out, whatever it is. There's a time and a place for that type of stuff, but when you see it in every match, it gets old real fast, and then nothing surprises you anymore. Yeah. So I think selling actually is becoming kind of a lost art on the indies, and I think that if people got better at that and took more time and sold more, again, that's when you really connect with the crowd, and connecting with the crowd is what pays your rent.
Certainly. So definitely, that's one of those things I always like talking about with people on these podcasts. Is first of all, I love bringing up the whole Rip Rogers, Randy Orton thing because obviously it spurs open. Like it's like busting open a coconut. Like you have no idea what's going to be in there. It's either going to be some weird kind of insect or it's going to be some really delicious, meat and coconut juice. So. Weird analogy, I know, but nonetheless, it's true. It can open up a bag of worms that you're not expecting, and it can get real nasty. But sometimes it's really constructive, so I like that. But definitely, kind of moving forward a little bit. One thing on the show that we like to highlight, other than the division in wrestling right now, and how everyone's kind of just on one end or the other. One thing I think anybody can kind of agree about with wrestling is that it's very hot. And since we like to kind of support and promote Midwest wrestling, we feel like right now that this probably is the best area for wrestling, period, I think. What is it like being a key part of Midwest wrestling?
Well, thank you. I take that as a compliment. But, being a key part of Midwest wrestling for me, again, Midwest wrestling is what I grew up on. So, indie wrestling to me was, Cincinnati, Kentucky, Indiana, that area. I saw my first ever Ring of Honor show, in rural Ohio. So again, it's to me that was what indie wrestling was, and I guess to be on any level a part of it, it means the world to me. This is, whenever people, because again, of course, we're, the OI4K, Ohio is for killers. So people say that we are the face of wrestling in Ohio, and they put me. I had this happen just the other day where, somebody put me on the same level. I get spoken about in the same breath a lot with Dave, Jake, and Sammy, so it means a lot to me because, again, these guys that my friends and some of my best friends do very much look up to them as performers. For me to be able as a manager to get a similar response or a similar mention, and, with these guys that I respect so much, it's just, I don't mean to be cheesy, but it's a dream come true. I mean, but it sounds cheesy, but it really is. It's a very fulfilling and very gratifying thing to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it might be a little cheesy. However, I think it still carries the same weight and emotion as anything, really, because, I mean, just to expand a little bit, I mean, we're talking about a group of people who, like, I mean, like you said, the amazing group of talent in Ohio that you've been talking about this entire time. I mean, just expand them on that a little bit. I mean, you know, you have, like you said, Sammy Callahan, the Christs, Aaron Williams, Desmond Xavier, Zachary Wentz, so many others. Like, I mean, your name, while it is with them, I think it's, you know, I don't want people to think just because, you know, oh, I'm a manager, I'm not at the same level. I think that when it comes to these kinds of things, that when you're a part of something like this, that being a key player, as even a manager, I mean, you're making the road. You're working. I mean, still, I mean, the word, I'm trying to remember the word I'm trying to think of. I'm like drawing a blank right now, but it's like. Yeah. But it's like to complete a puzzle, you need all the pieces, and you're an important piece, right? So to kind of summarize what I'm trying to say, because I'm really lost in my train of thought right now, to kind of summarize what I'm saying, you know, you're a part of a group of people right now that honestly is defining wrestling as a whole. And I think years from now, people are going to look back on this and they're going to be like, whoa. And I mean, I think that alone, just thinking about that blows my mind. So, sorry, I got a little lost in my train of thought there.
No, but I get what you're trying to say, and I do take it as a compliment. I appreciate it.
But, so, oh man, where was I going with that? Wow. So, as a manager, this kind of is a little bit different here. So, as a manager, why do you feel that, let me think here. So a manager is kind of one of those roles that I think people overlook sometimes. I think that some people think, you know, they're like, you know, okay, he's a manager. So as a kind of a forgotten role as a manager, like a forgotten art almost, why do you feel that managers and the character and mouthpieces they bring to this have almost disappeared? Why do you think that art has become lost? Well,
and this is a really hot topic with me. It kind of drives me nuts, and I'll tell you why. Bobby the Brain Heenan is I think undisputed, you know, probably the greatest manager of all time. At least most famous, whatever you want to call him. Most recognized as probably the, you know, best of all time. Bobby at WrestleMania 3, he actually got the largest payday of his life. And the largest payday of any professional wrestling manager ever, to my knowledge, for that one night's work, because it was the culmination of the Hogan-Andre feud. And it was big enough that it set him up financially. Now, why do I say that? Because in the 80s, you know, for WrestleMania 3, that role was so pivotal, you know, for, let's be honest, probably the most pivotal show in the history of wrestling. Well, you fast forward, you know, 30 years, and to your point, that role is just, other than Heyman, you know, but I think he's kind of different animal also, you know, but other than Heyman, who's out there, you know. The reason for that, in my opinion, is really simple. It's that during this whole wrestling revolution, so many people wanted to be a part of the show. And what would happen is that wrestler A, you know, would bring their buddy to the show, and the buddy really wants to be a part of the show, but he's not a trained wrestler. He has no idea what he's doing. Well, hey, can he manage me tonight? Okay, we'll let him manage you tonight. Well, what does that really mean? He's really a valet at that point. And I'm not to speak badly of the term valet, but to me a valet is just somebody that walks you to the ring and has no real purpose. Now, that does not mean female or male. Okay, I don't want anybody who's listening to this to think I mean a female. No, I think if you are like a Sherry Martel, or if you're, you know, somebody like that who really knows what they're doing, no, you're not a valet, you're a manager.
Yeah.
Okay? You know what you're doing. You're out there making a difference. Big difference for me as far as what a valet and a manager really is. I said this, I probably made people mad, but I was at a show in Pittsburgh, and I remember posting on Facebook during the show, I said, a lot of male valets tonight. Right? And for me, if you can't talk on the mic, and if you can't interject yourself into the match in a positive way, you're a valet, not a manager. Okay, so I make that very clear as far as the way I feel about it. But here's the thing, is the position has been so devalued and so just made to be a joke, or just, hey, here's this guy wearing a cowboy hat that's going to be my manager tonight. It means nothing. So
Exactly.
When I started doing this, and decided to do it, I read Gary Hart's book. I read Classy Freddie Blassie. I read Bobby the Brain Heenan. I really took some time, to try to get into the heads of these guys who've done it well. And they break down the psychology. They talk about the importance and what you can actually do. I've watched the Legends of Wrestling roundtable about managers on the WWE Network at least 12 times. Okay, because they do talk about such. I really have. But they really talk about psychology, like Jim Ross and the guys there are really talking about what it means to be a great manager. And I've watched it so many times, and if you be, let me rephrase that. I want to be the best. That's just what I want. I want to be the best. And I mean, one of these days, I would love it if my name could go, side by side, or somewhere in an asterisk beside somebody like Bobby Heenan or Paul Heyman or something like that. That's what I want. But to do that, you have to be very protective, just like we're protective of people in the wrestling business. I get very protective and very irritated, when I see people who are quote unquote managing, but who are giving it a bad name and who get in the way and who don't take the time to actually learn what it means to, add to a match, not to put the spotlight on yourself, but to put the spotlight on your client. Know when to get involved in a match, things like that. I was just talking to, I did another cast this afternoon, and I was explaining to him that about a month ago, myself and Sammy, we were in Chicago. Sammy was scheduled to wrestle ACH, and for one reason or another, we were second on the show, and we were way behind. I think we drove from Iowa. So way behind, literally enough time to get clothes on, into his hair, and we're running to the curtain to get out. So here are guys, wrestlers, right? Well, we got to call it out there. We got to call it in the ring. Luckily, Sammy and ACH are guys that can do that. But here's the problem: the promoter wanted me to be involved in the finish. Well, we can call anything, okay? But I'm a trained wrestler, and I know how to call it on the fly. So we talked. We figured it out while we were out there, and the finish ended up being great. But you get a guy out there who says, hey, I'm going to be a manager off the street. You think he could have done that?
No, there's no.
I don't. No, absolutely not. He could not be involved in that match without it being meticulously planned beforehand. I am the type of guy, I can go out there, we can communicate, and we will get a strong or even great match out of it that I have to be involved in. So again, that's where knowing your craft, and it is a craft, it's an art, but that's where knowing what you're doing, comes in handy, and that's why I'm on pay-per-view, 3, 4, 5 times a month, and these guys are 40-milers. They're never getting past their local promotion, or they're never getting past 40 miles from their house.
Yeah.
I just got all aggressive right there. My bad.
No, it's okay. No, I here's the thing is that I'm kind of like an outsider. I'm on the outside looking in, if that makes sense. Because
right.
Personally, I've never I've participated in wrestling events, but not to the aspect of being anywhere near the ring. I've done sound stuff,
right.
behind the scenes stuff. So definitely, as someone who's on the outside looking in, I can literally see exactly what you're saying, because I've definitely seen people who have come to the ring as quote-unquote managers. I did the air quotes again. And definitely, like you're saying, it's not something that you can pick up. It's not a book you can just read. It's not something that you can just say, hey, I'm good at this now.
Right.
It's something that you kind of have to learn.
Yeah, and there's definitely a instinct and
exactly.
And timing, that really go into it. One of the things that I really tried to do over the past couple of months, Dave and I, Dave's had a training school forever in Dayton, and I have I joined him over the past few months because I wanted to train managers. I wanted to try to give back, and because it was funny. I remember right after the election, And, I wasn't necessarily thrilled about the outcome on that one. That's just me. But he had a catchy slogan, make America great again. So I remember I was just sitting there at the gym and, and I just, typed out with a picture and I said, JT Davidson, making managers great again. And that was that. Like, I would just start training people so that there would actually be people on the independents who know what's right, what's wrong, how to be a real manager. And, I'm very proud of, my first student just did his first show. From all accounts that I heard, did great. His promos are solid. And he's not a wrestler. He's not. Dave and I trained him the basics, taught him how to bump, taught him how to roll, taught him how to protect himself, how to take a strike. But he's not a wrestler. Yeah. Right? He's basically has enough training so that he can get in there, and when somebody clotheslines him, he doesn't look like a sack of crap, hitting on the ground. Because that bothers me. Yeah. That type of thing bothers me. But doing great, and I'm proud of him. I think the problem is, though, that to be a manager, I don't think there's enough people out there. A lot of people say, hey, I'd love to be a manager. I couldn't be a wrestler, but I'd love to be a manager. But then you tell them, okay, we're dollars, and, you're going to have to learn how to take them. And they're like, I don't want that. And, so they, I've literally had one student, and, it's not really, unfortunately, it's just really not worth my time, to be there for 3 hours on Monday and Tuesday night when I'm going to be traveling Wednesday through Sunday. So if I had more students, I'd be there in a heartbeat, but, I just don't think there's enough people out there that really want to go, hey, from the outside coming in, I want to do this at a high enough level that I will, I'm not teaching them to jump off the top rope and, take, headers into guardrails like I do. That's not what I'm teaching them to do. But, but they will learn how to protect themselves if I'm going to train them, and they will learn how to be a legitimate manager.
Absolutely. So definitely, man. And then here's the thing too, is that like you can hear when someone's very passionate about something. So definitely during that entire conversation, I mean, I got some goosebumps going on, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, it definitely sounds like you mean, I don't know. It's always fun talking to people because one of the things I love about that, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different story, and they all have their passion. They have what they want to talk about, and you can hear it. So that's what I love about what I do. So definitely speaking fun, just awesomeness. So we're gonna wrap this up just a little bit here. So got a couple more things for you, but something fun we always like to do is we like to ask whoever comes on here. We like to ask them, what is one thing that your fans maybe don't know about you?
Okay, my fans would not know that I was a professional singer for a period in my life.
Out of all the things that I was thinking you might say, oh, hey, I do art, I do this. I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah. I used to get $100 a pop just through the national anthem. No joke.
You should do an album. You should have an album, and
I should just go back to singing the national anthem. I'd make more money at the show, and then I would take less abuse on my body. That's what I should do.
Oh gosh. That's actually really cool. That's really cool. I'll say I'll be looking for the album, looking for the mixtape. But
I'll take that one step further. I tried out for American Idol.
Oh, did you? Is there a video of this somewhere?
I don't know that there's video, but I remember I slept on the street in New York City to audition. That's a true story. To audition for American Idol. I still have a newspaper clipping somewhere about that. Yeah. So, look, little interesting things for the fans.
That is really interesting. That's like a super fun fact.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then also, not so fun fact, but also pretty cool. What are some of your goals for the remainder of 2017? I mean, we're actually exactly halfway through the year, so what are your goals moving forward?
Well, I'd say my first goal, and I haven't talked about this publicly a lot, but I just spent about 4 days in the hospital. I developed a blood clot in my leg, and unfortunately the blood clots spread to my lungs. So my first goal is just to get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be on blood thinners for probably 3 to 6 months, which is really going to affect what I can and can't do when it comes to getting physical. The doctors have made it very clear that anything that could make me bleed, I don't want any part of, because I could bleed to death.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, obviously. But I definitely I have a doctor's appointment on Wednesday. One of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast this week was just to kind of keep my, keeping myself out there while I'm off the road. But, I want to get healthy. Want to definitely try to get back on the road as much as possible. Unfortunately, when it comes to blood clots, driving is not good for those, because it hurts circulation and whatnot. But my goal at the end of the day, other than getting healthy, look, I'm looking to get a contract, whether it's with Ring of Honor, whether it's with Impact Wrestling, whether it's WWE, whatever it is. I want to be, somebody that's out there, and just being as real as possible. My goal is to get a contract this year.
Absolutely, and we're definitely going to be rooting for you. First of all, for a speedy recovery, but also for rooting for you because we want to see you out there, definitely. I think that's something we would all love to see. But speaking of keeping up with you and keeping up with, like, your health and stuff, is there anywhere anyone can follow you, like, on social media so they can just keep tabs on you, stalk your profile a little bit?
Absolutely. On Facebook, it's just JT Davidson. I guarantee it's the first one that pops up if you type in my name. If you don't know what I look like, I'm holding some big-ass title belts. But as far as Instagram and Twitter, my handle is the same on both. It's JT Davidson OI4K. And also, just a quick plug, if you go to www.prowrestlingtees.com/OI4K, you can pick up some of our merch there.
Absolutely. So, everybody, go look at his all of his Instagram, all of his Twitter, all of his Facebook. Go on there, look at all the information he's got on there. I'm sure he's got some cool stuff. Also, go buy some stuff from them because, that's how people make money these days. You got to sell merchandise to make money. So, not only that, but also I've seen some of the stuff they got on there, and it's pretty freaking cool. Anyways, well, thank you thank you so much for coming on here, JT. It's been a legitimate pleasure having you on here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Come crack open a cold one and let Old Mancer tell you a story.
King of Big Dog Style, Laird to Light Beer, the king of the trailer court, your favorite wrestler of mine, me.
This is Warner's Wisdom with Mance Warner.
All right, people, here we go. The red light's off. Old Mancer right here. Another edition of Warner Wisdom right here on the Dave Dynasty Show. It's your favorite wrestler and mine, me, the king of Big Dog Style. The Laird's and Light Beer Tour is in full effect. Old Mancer, the medium-sized man beast, the master of the pop-up headbutt. Dramatic pause, dramatic pause, dramatic pause. Wackadoo. Because I bring them big old wackadoos, that big boot, big old punch, big old wackadoos coming at you. That's the way it works. As I said, it's another edition of Warner's Wisdom right here. Old Mancer is getting on the road, heading to Ohio tonight. Got me a big old show out there, going to beat down Derek Direction in a bull rope match. But I want to go plugging everything out here real quick. I ain't going to plug nothing else. Besides my Pro Wrestling Tees website, go to ProWrestlingTees.com, put in Mance Warner, Mancer, be on there. You can buy a beautiful t-shirt. When I'm on the road, I got my beautiful 8x10s. One of them 8x10s was taken on Easter Day. I got a gun in my hand, a beautiful hat on, and I'm hanging out in the woods. You'll love it. Got my 8x10s. I got my brand new t-shirts. You can only get those at the live events. You can get the Laird to Light Beer t-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com. Everything else, got to be at a live event. Got to come see Old Mancer. I'll sign it, give it to you. You'll look cool. You'll be happy. I'll be happy. Everyone's happy. That's the way it works. Okay, back to what I'm talking about now. I had a question where someone had asked Old Mancer, where's the craziest or the weirdest place you've been at having a wrestling contest? Now, Old Mancer has wrestled in parking lots. I've wrestled in parking lots in front of steakhouses. I've wrestled downtown in between a bank and a newspaper building. I've wrestled inside of bars. I've wrestled inside of comedy clubs. I've wrestled all over this great world that we live in, United States, over in Japan, all over the place. Now, instead of me dropping wisdom on you about where I've wrestled at. Old Mancer going to tell you about the craziest event I was ever involved in. Someone reached out to Old Mancer. Old Mancer got a phone call from a living legend himself that told Mancer, I need your help, Mancer. Now, this living legend, you may know him. The Hick from French Lick. If that still don't ring a bell. Larry Bird from Indiana. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. Went to the NBA, on to the Boston Celtics. A living legend. He didn't quit playing, and he became a coach for the Indiana Pacers. Now, everybody knows Old Mancer is from Bucksnort, Tennessee. Now, when I'm sitting out in Bucksnort, Tennessee, drinking my light beers, heading to the strip club, we only got one. We only got one bar. But we got a whole lot of whores in that town. Anywho, Old Mancer hanging out, king of the trailer court, the Southern Psycho, Larry to Light Beer, Pop-Up Headbutt. You know all the nicknames. Y'all gave them to me. Old Mancer sitting out there drinking his beers, talking one of the rats. And I get a phone call. I pick up the phone. And I go, that ain't my baby. I ain't paying no money. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I just hear a voice that I recognize. I said, Larry, is that you? Oh, Larry goes, Mancer, is that you? And I go, Larry, don't be messing with me. Is this you? Come on now. And old Larry tells me, I need your help. My team down here is getting soft. They need Old Mancer on the case. Now what Larry proceeded to tell me, old Larry Bird, the living legend, the Hick from French Lick, he tells Old Mancer, and I don't care how long a drive it is, Old Mancer going to come from Bucksnort, Tennessee, and he going to go down and hang out with the living legend. He tells me, Mancer, we need you. Larry knows me from back in the day where I get in the fights all the time at the bars down there. Indiana back in the day used to be popping in the independent wrestling scene. Now, anywho, Larry says, oh, Mancer, I need you to come down here and help out my team. So, old Mancer goes, I'll be there, big man. Old Mancer shows up, and I'm informed that there's a beef between the Detroit Pistons. Let me say that again. The Detroit Pistons. Let me say that again. The Detroit Pistons. Let me say it one more time. The Detroit Pistons. I still got heat with them now. For the longest time, the Pistons and the Pacers had a little bit of heat going on. Sometimes people just get heat out of the blue against each other. Really no rhyme or reason for it. People just don't like each other, right? Sometimes they settle it, sometimes they don't. On this occasion, they didn't settle it. So, I meet up with the Pacers. You got Jamal Tinsley. Got Jermaine O'Neal. Got Reggie. Got Jeff Foster. Scott Pollard. I could go on and on. If you want me to name all of them, I ain't going to do that. I can't remember. I remember who I remember. I see their faces. Got old Ron Artest. Before he changed his name, Ronnie changed his name to something Peace, something World Peace or something like that. That's okay. I'm in the pro wrestling industry. Ronnie, I understand. People change their name all the time. You got the Warrior. He changed his name. Nikita Koloff. He changed his name. Lex Luger. He changed his name. Remember, Luger changed his name from just Lex Luger to then he was a narcissist, and then he was the American Man or whatever he was there. I don't know. He was kind of like Hulk Hogan. And then he changed his name back to his Lex Luger. He was in Where the Big Boys Play. And then he changed his name to just the Total Package. He was just a total package. People change their name, man. Who am I out here to be throwing stones? I ain't like that. I ain't gonna be throwing no stones at nobody. Now, anywho. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to mow that yard. Look at that yard out there. Okay, anyway. Old Mancer. What was I saying? Ronnie changed his name now. It's something different. That's cool, whatever. I think he's a rapper too right now. Or maybe he's a CEO of a band, a lady rap band or something. I can't remember. But anywho, So Larry tells me, you got to train these guys and get them ready, man. I can smell it in the air. There's going to be some fists flying when we head into Detroit, baby. Nah, that's what I did. I took the roster. I said, come on, guys, this is what we got to do. Jermaine O'Neal, he loved pro wrestling, so he knew right from the get-go Old Mansur was ready to rock and roll. So was he. I could tell it in his eye. Him, Jamal Tinsley, I wasn't sure about. I wasn't sure about Tinsley had the heart he needed at this point. But I knew with O'Neal, he was ready to rock and roll. So, I think Kenny Anderson's out there too. I can't remember. Now, anywho, I only had a couple days to get these guys ready. Not one. I said, we're going to the bar, boys. Went to the bar, and at first they were kind of, they were confused. They were like, why are we here just watching you drink a bunch of beers, bunch of light beers? I said, just pay attention, guys. So Old Mansur sat down and he started drinking them light beers. Had my fanny pack, whipped it around to the front, popped it open, zipped it open, boom, threw my hands in there, pulled out my goodies. Pop, 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 ready to rock and roll. 20 minutes go by. And I look at Jermaine O'Neal and I said, Jermaine, I'm going to tell you a story, baby. And he goes, all right, Master, what you got for me? I said, brother, Old Mansur was told when I was a little Mansur, you don't ever want to be at a bar at or after 2 a.m. And he goes, why, Mansur? I said, because nothing good could ever happen if you at a bar at or after 2 a.m. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, let's think about this, brother. If you a married man, your old lady at home, you go out with the boys and you at a bar at or after 2 a.m. When you get home, you're probably going to be locked out. You're going to be questioned because everybody knows the old ladies, they end up acting like they work for the damn FBI, the CIA, and everybody in between, the NCIS. And they got a million questions why you were out that late. And if you were at a strip club, you screwed already. Looked like you've been wrestling gold dust. Got glitter all over you. You in trouble now. You got the heat on you. So I tell Jermaine, I say, or if you at the bar at or after 2 a.m., maybe you make a bad decision. You got to live with that decision, Jermaine. And I'm telling him, I'm looking at him right in his eyes, and he's paying attention. He's listening. That's the thing I love in this industry. If someone looks you in the eyes and they don't look away, they ain't looking up, they ain't looking down, they're looking right in the eyes, they got a future in this industry. I'm going to hit up Jermaine later on and try to get him back in. I'm going to say, come on, brother, you can come on down here, get in the wrestling business. Now, okay, anywho. So I proceed to tell his story to Jermaine. And now I look at him and I go, Jermaine, what time is it? Is it at or after 2 a.m.? And he looks down at his rollie. He looks at it. His eyes get big. He looks up at Old Mansur. He goes, it's 2:01 a.m. And I said, well, it looked like it's that time. It's at or after 2 a.m. Old Mansur flips the table he's sitting at. I jump up on the chair. I jump off the chair. Double axe handle. Boom. I took down one security guard. Turned to another one. Big boot. Boom. Two random fools sitting at a bar. I grabbed both of them. Boom, double headbutt. They down. Wackadoo, 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 wackadoo. Mansur hitting them left and right now. Big lariat. Boom. Two security guards grab Mansur. They whip me into the bar table over here. They come, I'm showing you right now on the stool. They come running at me. Boom, big boot, kick up over the other one, hit the rope. There was no rope there, but Old Mansur took the wall. Boom, hit the wall. Boom, double lariat. I busted my head open. I slowly went to one knee and I looked up. The Indiana Pacers surrounded Old Mansur. And I said, boys, here we go. We proceeded to leave that bar because the police were coming pretty quick. You may remember that in the news. They said there was a gunfight. And they said it was the Pacers. And they said the Pacers had weapons, they had guns on them. Lies. What occurred that night was Old Mansur beat the bejesus out of a whole bunch of security guards and a whole bunch of bar goers to train the Pacers in the art of what Old Mansur started up, the king of big dog style. I learned that over in Japan. Lopan, we ain't got no heat this week. I love you, man. I miss you. Now, We then proceeded on night 2 to go to another bar, and I let the Pacers do what they got to do. They got funky out there. They were throwing wackadoos, headbutts, big boots, clotheslines. Jermaine powerbombed a man through a table. Jamal Tinsley still wasn't sure. The only thing he did that night was poke a guy in the eyeballs, and I said, okay, I'm down with that too. You cool in my book right now. Now, I'm going to fast forward here because I've already pulled the unsolved mysteries on you and explained to y'all that the Pacers didn't do nothing wrong at that nightclub. They were blamed for it. They didn't do nothing. Old Mance was out there getting funky. Hitting wackadoos, pop-up headbutts, lariats, big boots. We're gonna proceed. I had concussions. I forget words now. I'm gonna proceed on to the big game. Got Rasheed Wallace, Big Ben. The Pistons were a dirty team. They've always been a dirty team. You can go back to Dennis Rodman, the bad boys of Detroit. The game starts up, ain't no issues at first. Then a foul occurs between Ronnie Artest and Big Ben. Ronnie lays down on the table because he's tired, man. What's the big deal? A fan proceeds to throw a beer bottle at old Ronnie Artest. Now, this isn't the way I thought the big fight was going to occur, but hey, man, Detroit brought their fans into it. That's the way I look at it. Indiana didn't do that. Indiana people ain't going to do that. Bucksport, Tennessee people ain't going to do that. We got respect. Now, all hell proceeds to break loose. Beer bottles start getting thrown. Ronnie Artest is on his own. He's fighting these fans off. Boom, boom, stick and moving, stick and moving, stick and moving. It's beautiful. Big Ben gets involved. Rasheed gets involved. The Pistons are involved. The Pacers are at it. It's pandemonium. They're rocking and rolling. It's like World War III. And I ain't talking about the 3 ring 60 man. I'm talking about World War III. There's blood flying. I ain't talking about no Yeti or Ice Train. I'm talking about people are going wild out here. Oh, Master, I wasn't allowed in there because at the time I had a warrant in Detroit because I too had beat up some fans. I still got heat with the fans down there. Anywho, I'm sitting back in the trailer court where I rule, and old Master's sitting there watching on the TV, drinking my light beers. Had a good time, got my fanny pack, rocking and rolling. Old Master watching this. I see the brawl go down. I'm yelling out to everybody, get over here and watch real quick, but don't sit on my couch and don't step in my floor. Just stand right here. I'll turn the TV. You can see it out from the front. Don't come in. I don't want you messing this up. All the women could come in. All the wives could come in, but all the guys, get back, scoot back, scoot back, scoot back, scoot back, scoot back. That's what I would say. Now, the big fight goes down. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's getting wild. I love it. It reminds me of my Texas Deathmatch days back in Texas, where it originated. Now, as this goes down, they proceed to get everybody apart. Cops are in there, security's in there, the coaches are in there, everybody's in there, the popcorn vendors are in there, the guy selling the beers are in there, the guy with the cotton candy's in there, the guy walking around selling the damn magazine that they give to you for free when you're leaving. They're charging $20 when you come in. It don't make no sense to me. Everybody's out there. It's wild. They get everybody out to court. And then I proceeded to see the greatest thing I ever seen. Jamal Tinsley. After all this time, he had that look in his eyes where he wasn't too sure, was kind of staying backish. He didn't want to get involved in nothing. But we were at the bar and Mance was getting wild. I see Jamal Tinsley pick up what looked to be some sort of metal. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was a metal broom. Not the broom, but what you would sweep all the dirt into. He picks up this metal device and he comes running on the court swinging it over his head. And I stood up and I screamed and I said, "Jamal, baby!" Old Master went wild. Jamal Tinsley found his inner Mancer and he channeled it. And he was filled with rage. It was popping out his eyeballs. He was going wild. And he ran out there swinging that. And I loved it. I called him up and I said, "I love you, Jamal." And he said, "I love you, Mancer." I said, "This light beer, this one right here in my hand, Jamal Tinsley, this one's for you, baby." Now that was one of the greatest moments of my life. It wasn't wrestling involved, but not everything is, guys. At the end of the day, there's other beautiful, great things going on in the world. You gotta stand out there and let it soak into you like the sun. Stand out there, enjoy it. Let them sun rays hit you, baby. You save some money on a tanning salon. It's cool. Okay, old Master got to get off here. Like I said, I'm heading to Ohio. I got to go down there, put the boots to some fools. Okay, old Master got to get off here. There's been another edition of the Dave Dynasty Show. The best part of the Dave Dynasty Show. Old Master dropping the wisdom on you. I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good time. Won't be as good as Old Master's, but who is? All right, people. Adios.
Visit our friends at the Masked Republic. Go to luchaloot.com and luchashop.com and use the promo code DYNASTY for exclusive discounts.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. This is your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for JT Davidson for that amazing interview. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you to Mance Warner, as always, for dropping his wisdom. All drunken Southern Psycho style. Good stuff. Mance is the future. JT's the future. Good stuff. Like we said, make sure you check us out. DaveDynasty.com. All kinds of cool stuff. Social media links to all of our sponsors, our affiliates. Visit us at ProWrestlingTees.com. Buy a shirt. You never know. You buy a shirt, we might send you a little something special, a little surprise. Who knows, man? We're all the time trying to do cool stuff. Make sure you follow us on social media because we do hashtag themes every day. Check those out on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And join in the community, putting a little positivity back into pro wrestling. We did a poll on Twitter not too long ago for what we should call ourselves, our merry little band of Midwest wrestling fans, and the name Midwest Express won. So we're going to go with that. We are the Midwest Express. I like it. Kind of classic, kind of retro, kicks back to the olden days when there were all kinds of expresses, rock and roll, midnights, whatever. I don't even know what else there was. There was all kinds of expresses out there. And so watch the Pro Wrestling Tees store for an upcoming shirt from that. Let's bring the community together, support each other, support wrestling, support these guys. Get out there on the weekends, through the week, whatever night you can, and watch a wrestling show. Support independent wrestling in your area. Support the wrestlers. Buy a shirt. Buy some merch. Go out and have a good time, man. It's the most bang for your buck. You can't beat it for entertainment value. It is amazing what you'll see and how much fun you'll have. So that is it for this week. We are back next week with a great interview with WrestleCrap founder R.D. Reynolds. Very known in Indiana and the Midwest as a former manager, the real deal R.D. Reynolds, but mostly known for founding the WrestleCrap website, writing a few books. We talked to R.D. It's a great interview. It's very, very, very fun. You're going to want to listen to that. So until then, have a good week. For those of you that did notice, the episode did drop a day early. I'm going on vacation for a few days. I'm going to have a little fun, soak up some sun. I urge you to also do that. But wherever you go, whatever you do, take us with you. And until next week, be good, be safe, be independent, and keep on growing. Thank you and goodbye.